since it's an activity, read and just respond like we did in the last class. Okay, is that fine, all three of you? Okay. Is that okay, Ravi, Shubham, and Prashant? We'll do the activity, is it?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Shubham and Prashant, this is for you guys too. Okay. Ravi shouldn't end up answering everything. Okay. I'll share the screen with you and you can take a look at it. You can also communicate via the chat box if it is difficult for you to speak, but I would recommend you speak rather than just use the chat box. But if it is very difficult, then you can resort to that method. Um, so, I'll share. Okay, do you see the screen? It says patterns of organization in paragraphs. Does it?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll start with this. And your task is, so like you see, we are going to look at how a cause and effect and a compare and a contrast or a chronological or sequential um, paragraph would look like. So we discussed this along with the patterns of paragraphs when we were doing the specific to general and all that. The last part that we discussed was a list of patterns, right? In addition to the specific ones. So you can take a cue from that, and I mean you already know what a cause and effect and the compare and the contrast paragraph is. If not, then you can ask. You can quickly revise on that. But let's look at a few paragraphs and try and see if we can identify these patterns in them, right? So that is going to be the first task for today. Identify the patterns of organization in the following paragraphs. So please read the first paragraph carefully and let me know what pattern of see in these paragraphs. So the first one, please read it and let me know. I'll read it and then you can maybe take a minute or so to read it to yourself and then let me know what the pattern is, okay? COVID-19 has rapidly affected our day-to-day life. Businesses disrupted the world trade and movements. Identification of the disease at an early stage is vital to control the spread of the virus because it very rapidly spreads from person to person. Most of manufacturing of products, the various industries and sectors are affected by the cause of this disease. These include the pharmaceuticals industry, solar power sector, tourism, information and electronics industry. This virus creates significant knock-on effects on the daily life of citizens as well as the global economy. Now, so this is your paragraph. Task is that you identify what pattern of arrangement, what pattern of organization has the author used to construct this paragraph. Okay? So quickly read it to yourself once and then let me know what pattern you see. Yes? Any idea? What do you think? What is the pattern of arrangement here? Very simple, right? It's just straightforward.
Cause and effect, ma'am.
Yeah, right. So it's a very straightforward paragraph. So it's cause and effect, right? The cause is already detailed. It says COVID-19, and then the rest of the paragraph goes ahead and gives you the various effects that right. So a very straightforward example of cause and effect paragraph. Okay. All right. Now we move on to the second one. Please read that as well.
Um,
Linda? Yes, somebody wanted to ask something.
effect is the entire paragraph, ma'am.
Yes, yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
The whole of the paragraph is arranged to give you the cause and then the various effects that the causes generate. Okay. All right. The second one, you have the second paragraph in front of you now. So we'll do the same thing. So it will read and arrangement we see there. Two main fields of perception are advanced to explain the debate about nature versus nurture. Gibson argued that perception is innate because the sensory array is sufficiently rich in information for perception to take place without any additional cognitive input. Gregory, on the other hand, pointed to the ambiguous and fragmentary nature of most sensory inputs, which must thus rely on expectations to complete the perceptual process. A short paragraph. All of them are very simple ones. They're mostly being put up to make you understand what these different patterns of arrangement mean. So, what do you think? What is the pattern of arrangement here? Read also make note of the linguistic signposting. I hope you remember that part when we discussed. We had discussed a set of words that the authors might use while they write in order to signal to the reader, right? What kind of paragraph they are going to write. So there were signposts for each of these paragraphs. The signposts basically mean the language cues that help you understand whether this is a cause or effect, sequential one, or so on and so forth. When you're reading, also take a note of those things. Once you're able to identify that, it is easier for you to see what pattern is used. What pattern do you think has been taken up in this paragraph? What form of arrangement? Is it cause or effect? Is it compare or contrast? What do you think it is?
Compare and contrast, ma'am.
Yeah, this is compare and contrast, right? So how did you, I mean, it is obviously visible, but there are, if I ask you what cues, what language cues do you pick from here to understand this compare and contrast, what will be your answer? Did you pick up anything from the paragraph, any phrase or any word that you paid attention to?
Two main theories, ma'am. So they are discussing about two
Huh,
theories. So
correct. Very first line itself tells you debate between, right? And then they go ahead and mention two points. But if I'm to talk about just the language part, then we also see, if you look at the third sentence, Grigory, on the other hand. So this on the other hand is also one very commonly used phrase while we are describing something in a compare and contrast manner. Right? That is what I meant by signposting. We did discuss this, but I think we're yet to get used to that kind of identification. So make sure that up all these cues to understand what sort of paragraph is being written. So this on the other hand, on one hand, on the other hand, these are all very commonly used expressions to design a paragraph that is written in compare and contrast. Okay, all right. So we'll move on. We go further with the exercise. Now the third paragraph. All matter, all things can be changed in two ways, chemically and physically. Both chemical and physical changes affect the state Chemical changes are those that do not change the makeup or identity of the matter. For example, clay will bend or flatten if squeezed, but it will still be clay. Changing the shape of clay is a physical change and does not change the matter's identity. Chemical changes turn the matter into a new kind of matter with different properties. For example, when paper is burned, it becomes ash and will never be paper again. The difference between them is that physical changes are while and chemical changes are permanent, which means they last forever. Physical and chemical changes both affect the state of matter. Yes, what kind of paragraph?
It is compare and contrast.
Yeah, this is compare and contrast. But do you remember when we were discussing compare and contrast, I told you there are two ways of doing compare and contrast. Any idea? Do you remember how do we do two methods of writing down a compare and contrast paragraph? Do you want me to brush it up with you? Did you get my question? There were two ways of arranging a paragraph in a compare and contrast method, right? So, do you remember what they were?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't remember them clearly.
Okay, no problem. So, see, just to brush up what we have discussed that day, two methods, okay? So, one is called the block method and the remember now something? Does it ring a bell? So point to point was when you would write, one point from topic A, and then write the first point from topic B, right? Then you continue by writing second point from topic A, second point from topic B. So it went point by point, right? Whereas block method was when you used to write down everything of topic A, every points under topic A, and then write every point under topic B. Okay, remember this now?
Yes, ma'am, now I remember.
Okay, so if you look at this paragraph carefully, it has used both. They use the point-to-point compare and contrast method, but towards the end of the paragraph, you see that it resorts to a block method where they write both of them together. So the point here is that in a paragraph, you might find multiple patterns of arrangement, right? So sometimes you will find a paragraph which has both the compare and contrast and the cause and effect method used. Okay, this is a paragraph where you have a compare and contrast method of arrangement, but even within that, they have used the point to point method and the block method together. Combinations and permutations are possible in writing. So it is not like there's nothing like if I've started writing in this particular way, then I should continue with this. Otherwise, it's going to be wrong. You can use various combinations, whichever ones you think you can use and convey your ideas clearly to the reader is okay in writing, right? So point B, combinations are possible. So when you read, since you have now started to look at the craft of writing as such, as in how to design something in a paragraph and all that. At this stage, you should start looking at the paragraphs that you read from now onwards to see what different methods the authors use to convey their points. Okay. All right. So yes, compare and contrast, in which you see both the point-to-point and block method used in the together in the paragraph. Okay. Fourth one, the short one. Read the fourth one. When I got home a long boring day, I took out the peanut butter, jelly, and bread. After taking the lid of the jar, I spread the peanut butter on one side of the bread and jelly on the other. And then I put the two pieces of bread together. After that, I enjoyed it while watching Pops on the TV. I swear that was the best peanut butter and which I over 8. Yes. What kind?
Chronological, ma'am. Sequential.
Sorry, what was that?
Chronological, ma'am. Sequential.
Chronological, like sequential, right? Sequential arrangement, very neatly, very cleanly written sequential character, right? Few points when I got home. Okay, then after taking the lid off, hmm, then I put the two pieces together. After that, all of them towards the sequential order of things. So yes, something that is written chronologically or sequence. Fifth one, read the fifth one. Robert James Pitcher was born in Chicago but unlocked the secrets of chess in a Brooklyn apartment right above a candy store. At the age of 6, he taught himself to play by following the instruction booklet that came with his chessboard. After spending much of his childhood in chess clubs, Fisher said that one day I just got good. That may be a bit of 13, he won the US Junior Chess Championship, becoming the youngest junior champion ever. At the age of 14, he won the US Championship and became the youngest US champion in history. Fischer would go on to become the world champion of chess, but he would also grow to become his own worst enemy. Instead of defending the title, he forfeited it to the next challenger without even making a move. And the rise of a chess superstar ended with a fizzle. Okay, in terms of arrangement, what do you see? See this at the age of 6, then after spending much of his childhood at the age of 13, and at the age of 14. What do you think? What form of arrangement is this?
Sequential, ma'am.
Sequential, right? This is a narration based on someone's. So again, very clearly, the paragraph goes on from the person's childhood stage till his teenage and thereafter, right? So sequential or chronological order of arrangement. Keep in mind that whenever you're talking about sequential or the chronological order, there'll be an excessive reference to things happening in stages and periods, right? So if you have a after reading a paragraph, you get a sense of a stage like narrative, right? One after the other, even sort of narrative, then no doubt there's no price for guessing that this is a pattern for organization of the pattern, right? So these are not very difficult to identify. Just certain small cues and you're good to go. Now the
So
sixth one
stepwise
here.
arrangement, ma'am. Stepwise arrangement.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Uh, the sixth one, Dr. Miller doesn't want the tigers to vanish. These majestic beasts are disappearing at an alarming rate. Dr. Miller thinks that we should write to our Congress people to feel of the species. Maybe we can make a difference. Dr. Miller also thinks that we should donate to save the tigers. Um, our donations will help to support and empower those who are fighting the hardest to preserve the tigers. We owe it to our grandchildren to do something. So, what is it? What sort of paragraph?
cause and effect, ma'am.
Cause and effect, yes, that's correct. Okay, and if you have to look at it a little further to understand or pinpoint a little more, you can say it's the problem and solution paragraph also, right? So Dr. Miller not just highlights the problem, but also explains a few solutions that can be, arranged in order to mitigate the problem, right? So yes, in terms of arrangement, of course, cause and effect and a problem solution kind of paragraph, right? So this problem solution paragraph, if you remember, we discussed about 10 types of paragraphs, 10 types of arrangements within the larger frame of things. So which is why under that you can use this as a problem solution paragraph. But yes, largely it's a cause and effect. Okay. All right. So let's then look at the seventh one here, a little bigger paragraph, but let me see. Yeah, this should be it. Please read it. Yes,
Cause and effect.
cause and effect. That's right. The larger fit is cause and effect. But do you also see that there is a sequential moving of events here? First, second,
Yes,
third.
ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
read all the steps, right? They're also linked, right? So first, easy credit conditions allowed people who were at high risk or unworthy of credit to borrow. And then second, banks would bundle these toxic loans financial market. Third, large insurance firms back these packages. So all of them are linked together, first, second, third, fourth. So overall, the paragraph is arranged as a cause and effect paragraph. But within that, again, they have used the sequential form of arrangement to show how things proceeded over a period of time and has led to the final catastrophe. Do you see that? Okay, so this is what I meant by using two patterns together. So it's not like you've started using one, so you'll have to entirely fit in within that. If your idea or whatever you want to present to the author, if it requires you to bring in other patterns as well, you can use the combinations of them in a pattern. This is an example of one such paragraph where you have a combination of both the compare and contrast pattern and the sequential pattern. Okay. All right. Now, the last one here on the screen, 8th one. Please read it and let me know how this is arranged.
Chronological.
Chronological, right? So this is also because they are explaining a process to do something. You can also process paragraph. Right? It's an example of process paragraph too. What has to be done first? What has to be done last? Say we also call it the order of importance paragraph. These are all subsections of pattern of arrangement. Like you mentioned, the major one is of course chronological or the sequential arrangement. Within that, you can also say this is a process paragraph or this is also an order of importance paragraph, since they very clearly mention, what has to be done first and what has to be done last, right? Okay, clear. This is where now and have tried to understand the patterns of arrangement and what are the possible combinations that we can see in the arrangement of paragraph. Is that clear to you? Can you see how people would write like a real time paragraph? Is that fine with all of you? The three of you from the
Yes, ma'am.
beginning. Okay, so you will have to to get more into the swing of these things already. That from now onwards, when you read, whatever you read, even if it is for the preparation of your other subjects, or if it is a newspaper or a magazine or anything that you read, a journal article, try to do this analysis with the writer that comes to you. Okay, this kind of scrutiny also helps you write better. So this one you can do as a part of revision on your side. Now, what we're going to do next is the second activity here. We have a paragraph, mostly I think in the compare and contrast pattern. So we are going to convert this particular paragraph. This is a long one. So I want you to first read it and just, I don't want you to do it right here in the class, but I just want you to tell me if I ask you to convert these paragraphs into a point-to-point method, how can you do that? Maybe the first 2, 3 sentences you can let me know, and then we can. I just want to know if you are familiar with the process of point. Should I make this, but then still be available? Let's see if I can put it into still won't work, right? Okay, let it be. Just read through the paragraph first, and then let me know how will you rewrite it in the point-to-point method. You don't have to rewrite. You just have to tell me how you will do it. Okay, but first just read the paragraph. I've scrolled the page for you to read the second paragraph too. Okay, so you might have finished reading by now, right? What is this? What sense do you get from this? What are these two paragraphs talking about? They're talking about whether personality is acquired or it is natural, right? This is the two things that they're discussing. Did you get it from the paragraphs? You understood what the yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
So the question or the debate here is about whether someone's personality is acquired naturally, that is at birth, is it inherited, or is it something that evolves over a period of time? If it is something that is built into us as we grow. So that is the basic idea of the paragraph. Now, our point is not to go deep into what they are talking about, but our point is how to reconstruct this paragraph in the point method. I think I quickly revised it with you while we were looking at the other paragraphs. The first question when we were looking at that. Right. So if you are asked to just the first few, the first couple of lines, maybe not the entire paragraph. If I ask you to reconstruct this in the point-to-point method, how can you do that? What method will you apply? Just give me an example of it, and I think we'll be good with you. Say the first sentence, like you have, according to naturalist, personality is natural. Is that personality is a result of evolutionary process, right? I come down to the second paragraph. Arguments for the supremacy of nurture posit that personality is nurtured. This group argues that one does not get personality from inheritance. Okay, and then there is further argument. They argue that the mind is a blank state at first sight, and on the other hand, you have human beings that believes inherit behaviors due to a complex interaction of genes. Paragraph in the point-to-point method. Just using the first 2-3 points, can you let me know how that could happen? That's all I want to do, because I just want you to understand how this can be written. My focus is more on how it would be written than the other things. Anybody who can demonstrate how that can happen? Just the first few lines.
Should we convert this paragraph into points, ma'am?
Not converting to points. This is see, point-to-point method is what? This is one of the method in how you write a compare and contrast paragraph, right? You have two methods. You have the block method and the point-to-point method. Right now, it is written in the block method, which means the first argument, that is the personality is natural, that is written and it is finished. All of the arguments about personality being natural is made already in the first paragraph. And then in the second paragraph, they take a contrasting opinion about no, personality is nurtured and talk. Our point is, our task is to convert this into a point-to-point method of compare and contrast. The paragraph still remains compare and contrast in pattern. However, the arrangement of the same compare and contrast points takes a little different turn in point-to-point. And we are trying to understand what this point-to-point method is. That's all. I've discussed this, but if you remember, I also revised it while we were looking at the first question. If you understood it, then it should be easy for you to do this one. Okay, anybody who wants to try, or do you want me to give you the answer? Very simple.
Ma'am, first point can be from according to naturalist to throughout human life, and then we can further divide from the theory of uh, Darwin's to and cheating behaviors are inevitable.
No, so in point to point, you first have to identify what the point here is, right? So if I am going to go till human life and characteristics, I'm actually clubbing 2-3 points together. Instead, what I can do is I can take the first point. According to naturalist, personality is natural. Now, this is one point that we are. Okay. If you look at the second paragraph here, again, the first line says arguments for the supremacy of nature posit that personality is nurtured. These are different points. From thereafter, this group believes that personality is a result of evolutionary. Okay, yeah, I think even that will have to go together. Whether believe that. Okay, yeah, I think you are right. We can do maybe in that fashion where you take everything from according to naturalist till what did you say? Human life.
Throughout human life.
Okay, so throughout human life, maybe we can also take the next point because it says they further believe, right? So they're still talking about the group. So we can keep all of that together in one. Because otherwise, when you do the point to point, that one point will look odd somewhere else.
Okay, ma'am.
According to naturalists, still never change them altogether can be your first point. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. And if you look at the second paragraph, how will it work then? You tell me.
First line, ma'am. Arguments for the supremacy of nurture posit that personality is nurtured.
First line till because in the first paragraph, what did we do? We gave the point and then we talked about what each of the groups think about it, right? So again, we'll do the same for the second one also. So I'll just tell you how that would happen when you write in a sentence. So I'm going to begin like this. According to naturalists, personality is natural. This group believes that personality is a result of evolutionary process. Human beings, it believes, inherit behaviors due to a complex interaction of genes. As such, genes that form and characteristics measured with personality tests remain stable throughout human life. They further believe that human beings may sharpen their types or personality, but can never change them altogether. Then, in the point to point method, I'd say arguments for the supremacy of nurture possess, however, that personality is nurtured. This group argues that one does not get personality from inheritance. The blank slate at birth. The definition of nurture has extended to influence of development that emanates from prenatal, parental, peer influence and extending to the role of media, marketing, and socioeconomic status. They dispute that types and characteristics measured with personality tests change incessantly throughout one's life. So this forms your one full point for topic A, which is personality is natural, and topic B, that personality is nurture. Okay, this all of this together can form the first point for you, and then you can go second point under that, which is what is that? Darwin's theory, right? Where is it? Darwin's theory of evolution led naturalists such as George Williams, William Hamilton, and many others to the idea of personality evolution. They proposed that physical organs and personality is a result of natural selections. Okay, and then again you can come back here in the second one where it says Harvard psychologist B.F. Skinner's experiments but produced birds that could dance and play tennis, today known as the father of down to prove that human behavior could be conditioned in much the way as animals. Okay, so it would go on like that. Understand? So point is that you pick one point, finish that point completely, and then go to the next one. Okay. In point to point, take the first point, complete it entirely, then take the same thing, the points around the same thing from topic B, finish it off, then move to the second point from topic B. Get that? Like we did right now. Did you understand how to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that is how you're going to finish off this paragraph. So there you talked about personality as natural, wrote down everything that the group believed, then mentioned a few. Okay, then you came back to the second paragraph, talked about the same thing there, went to the first paragraph back again and talked about the major theorists in that area. Again, came back to second paragraph and talked about the major theorists in that area, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is called point to point method. Instead of writing everything together from topic A and then going to topic B, you take individual points from both the side by side. Okay, that's called point to point. Clear?
Each point is like mini paragraph, ma'am.
Each point is like, yeah, mini paragraph. It looks like it because of the length of it, but if you look at them closely, you will see that they don't qualify to be paragraph because you don't have all the essential components required to build up a paragraph. Okay, only the length, makes you feel like this is a paragraph by itself. But no, they're all individual points which need to be put together with other points to make a full good paragraph. Okay. Uh, Okay, so you understand the arrangement, right? That is the major point that I wanted to discuss with you. Okay, is it okay for you? You understand how the point-to-point method works, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, the last one here, this is again a paragraph that you are required to rewrite, but I don't want you to do anything at this point. I only want you to read this paragraph and see if there are points where you think you can insert in the sequential arrangement. You have to show the order of things, right? The order of events. This is a paragraph on the origins of the modern day cake that we have. Please read through this and see if there are areas where you can insert some sequential words in order to complete this paragraph, to complete the link of the paragraph, right? We know if we are writing a sequential paragraph using signposts for because that will give the proper smooth flow and logical continuity to the paragraph that we are writing, right? So read this one and see if there are missing words of sequentiality here and if you can insert them so that this paragraph becomes better in terms of cohesion, right? In terms of flow. Yes, any idea after having read the few lines at least? Do you see that there are words that you can insert to make it sequential? Yes, anything? Anything that you see here? Have you, Vishant and Ravi?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What do you think about this? Do you see missing um, words of sequentiality? I'll do maybe the first, uh, just give you an idea how this works. So just listen carefully on how it works. The word cake is of Dhaka. The first cakes ever made are actually quite different from the ones we eat today. Okay, so you can insert something of that sort to give it a sense of sequentiality, right? Here it has, they were actually quite different from the ones we eat today. So you can instead write the first cake, right? The first cakes ever made are actually quite different from the ones we eat today. We move on with, interestingly, the ancient Egyptians practice culture to excel baking skills. Then you can come on to in ancient times, right? That sentence. In ancient times, the cakes were more bread-like in appearance and sweetened with honey. The Greeks also had an early form of cheesecake, while the Romans developed versions of fruit cakes. None of those means anything. But look at this sentence in mid 17th century Europe, right? So now we are going to talk about we talked about the ancient time, and then now you have to make a transition to what happened in. There has to be some sort of a bridge or a link before you move to that sentence. So you can use a word like meanwhile, right? So instead of simply saying, simply jumping to the sentence in mid 17th century Europe, you link the first part with the second part with a word like meanwhile. This is a sequential word, right? This is a word that you can use to indicate the order of events or sequence in sentences, right? In paragraphs. So, meanwhile, in mid 17th century Europe, cakes were frequently baked as a result of ingredients, right? We do that. And then Europe is credited with the invention of modern cakes, which were round and topped with icing. Incidentally, the first icing was usually a boiled mixture of sugar, egg whites, and some flavorings. Um, then you see many cakes still contain dried fruits. So again, you see that it can be written better using a bridge of sequential word. So you can, because we are still talking about something that happened during that time, you can introduce the phrase during this time, right? We're still talking about the 17th century, and we are still explaining how the cake and everything looked. To form the link between during this time, many cakes still contain dried fruits like currants and citrons. Okay, this is not an absolutely important phrase in that particular sentence, but you can use it to uh, you can still use it to make your sentence a little more cohesive in the paragraph, right? But not absolutely important. If you read it together, it does not look very flawed, but it is always better that you use these devices so that the linkage is formed properly. Okay. Now, this one, can you say what's the problem with the next sentence? It simply begins in the 19th century. Don't you think we need something to show a transition there? Yes, no?
Ma'am, we can use during as a signpost of transition.
Where?
Ma'am, in
Before
the
which
19th
sentence?
century, we can use it like during the 19th century.
Yes, but the problem here is we also have to show sequence, right? So we finished the ancient time, then we looked at the 17th century, and now we are going to move on to sequential word can be something that indicates that you're moving ahead in time. So during is not wrong, but a better word to be used would be something that indicates that we are, because we are essentially talking about the history of case, right? Don't you get that understanding from the paragraph? So when you are making that kind of narration, it is always nice to use words that will show that progression, okay, in time. So better than during, you can use a word that would indicate a progressiveness in the narration, right? What do you think that would fit there? Can we use then?
Yes, ma'am, it can be.
Huh?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
then in the 19th century, yes. So that shows some sort of progression. It shows that, yeah, we are sort of narrating things in the order of time and duration. So then in the 19th century, cake as we know it today became more popular. However, the sweet was considered a luxury as sweet ingredients like sugar and chocolate were very expensive. Cakes were baked with extra refined powder instead of, okay, so here like you were saying, you can use the word during in that space, okay, because we are still talking about that period and we're explaining what happened there. So you can write during this time or during this period, cakes were baked with extra refined white flour and baking powder instead of yeast, okay, like we use it in the case of the 17th century thing. Remember, where was it? uh, this is, some flavoring.
In mid 17th
Yeah,
century.
like
Meanwhile,
during 19th century, that sentence, no, during this time, many cakes still contain dried fruits. So similarly, we'll use the during this time for the 19th century paragraph 2. During this time, cakes were baked with uh, extra refined white flour and baking powder instead of yeast. Okay. Buttercream frostings also began replacing traditionally boiled icing. Here we don't have to put anything because there is already the word also. So it is doing the function of additiveness. So there is no transition element there. Again, next sentence begins with also, no need of, so that already acts as a bridge there. We don't have to put anything extra. So also thanks to the advancements in temperature controlled ovens, the baker's life became much easier. No longer did the bakers have to continually watch and wait for the cake to finish baking. This is all about, how things happened during the 19th century. Even more, the Industrial Revolution made ingredients more readily available, which made them cheaper, so more people could bake them or even buy them at the store. They're all linked enough to each other. We don't need to show any sequences of arrangement there whatsoever. Not needed. The time slots and points you require to put in the sequence words so that the reader correctly follows the progression and the order of events as it takes place. Okay. Elsewhere, we don't use the sequential order of things, words. We can use other bridges, but in this paragraph, those things are done properly. Only those sequential arrangements were missing, which we have supplied. Okay. You see that?
Okay, ma'am.
Is that okay for you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay.
ma'am,
All
can
right.
we use
So
afterwards, ma'am? Afterwards in the 19th century.
there.
In the 19th century, ma'am.
After 19th century, no. Then you will have to write. You will have to change the phrase itself. You'll have to say after 17th century. You can't write then 19th century. If you're keeping 19th century, then you will have to say then in the 19th century. Okay. After, to use after, you will have to change that phrase to after the 17th century.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Afterwards. Afterwards.
Afterwards. Yeah, you can do that also, but you will just remove specificity from there. It is not wrong. You can use afterwards, but then you will not mention any century or anything. Only that word would be there afterwards. Or a better usage would be in the later centuries. That can also, anything can figure in. Anything that shows sequentiality can go in there, but then it is upon us to decide whether that usage is better or the other one is better. Okay. All right.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay then, so that was all for today. So I hope the exercise we did in the last class and this one should together help you in identification and construction of different patterns of paragraph. Keep doing this, keep practicing this yourself also, and with time you will definitely learn and fare better at this. Okay. So thank you. We'll close for today and I'll meet you on Thursday.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.